us begin. Okay, continue with the opening prayer from the Shiva Mahimna Stotram. This is on page 172 of this book, The Universal Prayers, the top of page 172. Om Asita Samam Sat Kajjalam Sindhupatre Surataru Arashakha Lekhani Patramurvi Likati Yadi Grihitva Sharada Sarvakalam Tadapi Tava Gunanam Ishaparam Nayati. O Lord, if the goddess of learning were to write until the end of time, until eternity, using the biggest branch of the celestial tree as her pen, the whole earth as the writing surface, the blue mountain for ink, and the ocean for the ink pot. Even then, O Lord, thy attributes cannot be fully described. Infinite indeed are thy glories. May you protect us all. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om, may there be peace in our hearts. May there be peace and harmony amongst all beings. And may there be peace everywhere in nature. We will continue from verse number 23. We'll try to finish chapter 8. In the previous verse, number 22, Bhagavan Sri Krishna explained that the best way to reach God is through the path of devotion. Ananya Bhakti. Verse number 22. Purushasya parah partha bhaktya labhyastvananyaya hasyantasthani bhutani yena sarvamidam tatam. Saha paraha purusha. Para means supreme. Purusha means the supreme Lord, Paramatma. Parama Purusha, that supreme Lord, Bhagavan. Ananyaya bhaktya labhyaha. Labhya means he can be gained. We can reach God. We can experience our unity with God. By what means? Ananyaya bhaktya. By one-pointed devotion, undivided devotion. Devotion can be ordinary devotion, which most people have, combined with the desire, asking something from God. That we saw from 7th chapter. 4 kinds of people worship me, he says, in chapter 7, verse 16. Chaturvida bhajante mam, that verse. That is ordinary devotion. Seeking something from God. That is freedom from suffering, asking for something which one does not have, which one wants, all these things that we know. But Ananya Bhakti means one-pointed devotion, not seeking anything from God, not expecting anything, not out of fear or desire. Pure devotion, motiveless devotion, Ananya Bhakti, one-pointed devotion. Anya means something else, different. Ananya means no other different thought in one's mind, only thought of God. That we saw before. By that bhakti, ananyaya bhaktya, saha paraha purushaha, Labhyaha, that Supreme Lord can be gained. We can know Him, experience our divine nature, our oneness with the Lord. And he is being further described in the second line. Yasyantasthani bhutani. All the beings are within him. As we saw before, he is the source of all the beings. Whole creation comes from him, is sustained by him, and merges back into him at the end of their cycle of existence. Yena sarvamidam tatam, by whom this whole universe is pervaded. Like space pervades everything. Wherever you go in the creation, there is space, endless, eternal, infinite. Like that, the divine presence in the form of pure consciousness, Avyakta Murti, he pervades everything. He is within everyone, outside everyone. There is no place where he is not present, omnipresent. Such a Lord, Parapurusha, Supreme Lord, Labhyaha, he can be gained. How? By Ananya Bhakti, through pure devotion. We start with ordinary devotion, all of us start there. Then gradually, as our understanding deepens and our devotion becomes deeper, when we stop asking things, surrender our whole life to the Lord, to His will. He knows what we need better than we know our own needs. We may think that I want this, I want that, but He knows better what we need. He will provide what He needs, what we need, and will protect what we have. That assurance will come in the next chapter, chapter 9, verse 22. There he says, I shall protect whatever my devotee needs, I shall provide and I shall protect. Yogakshemam vahamyaham. That will come later in the next chapter. So through pure devotion. So what is the message here? We have to cultivate pure devotion to God. Gradually stop asking for things, entrusting our whole life well-being to God, because He knows what we need. When we need, He will provide. But we have to be devoted to Him. Ananyas chintayanto mam ye janah paryupasate tesham nityabhiyuktanam yogakshemam mahamyaham. That verse will come in the next chapter. We'll study that in detail. So message here is, instruction here is, entrust our life to God. He will take care of us, will protect us. And we don't have to ask for anything. Pure devotion, love for the sake of love alone, not expecting anything in return for our love. By that, we can reach God. That was verse number 22. Now, a slightly different topic begins. In the next 4-5 shlokas, 23 to 27, Bhagwan describes two lifestyles leading to God, two ways of spending our life. If we follow one path, the path of light, knowledge, and devotion, we don't have to come back to this world of suffering. This life, human life is, it is all kinds of things happening, birth and growth and existence and change and old age and disease and death, all these things, bereavement will happen. We don't have to go through this again. By following the path of devotion, knowledge and devotion, one way, no coming back, anavritti. If we follow the other path, only path full of desires and enjoyment and that path, then we'll have to come back to the same human plane again and go through the whole experience again. So these two paths are being described in the next 4-5 shlokas, 23 to 27. And some of these things are not to be taken literally. I shall explain to them. Explain when we get to them. So verse number 23. Yatra kale tvanavrittim avrittim chaiva yoginaha prayata yanti tam kalam vakshyami bharatarshava. Bharatarshava means addressing Arjuna, the bull among the Bharatas, strongest person among the Bharatas. O Arjuna, I shall explain to you. Vakshyami, I shall explain to you. What is he going to explain? That time, time in here means not chronological time, but lifestyle. We'll study that. Yatra kale, that's time in which anavrittim, anavritti means not coming back to this human life. Avrittim, coming back to this life. One way you lead your life, you have to come back. Another way you lead your life, you don't have to come back, you merge in God. You become one with the infinite. Both those times or lifestyles, I'm going to explain to you, yogina of yogis. Yoga here means it can be bhakti yoga, jnana yoga, or karma yoga, or anything. Yoga means a path leading to God, union with God. Prayata yanti, yatra kale prayata. Prayata means those who depart from this world. Tam kalam vakshyami, I explain that time to you. Kala does not necessarily mean chronological time. There are some people who believe that if you die during the Uttarayana 6 months, when the sun is in the northern half of the sky, then you will go to heaven. If somebody dies during the Dakshinayana, 6 months of the year when sun is in the southern part of the sky, they will not go to heaven. Like this, some Puranas have that kind of information. But the time is irrelevant. Whether you die during Uttarayana, Dakshinayana, sun is in north or south of the sky, whether it is day or night or rain, etc., that does not matter to devotees, yogis. What matters is how we have spent our time, life in this lifetime. During this lifetime, how we are spending our time. That determines what happens to us after leaving the body, whether we come back or not. What determines whether we come back or not to human life or we achieve liberation, union with God, depends upon how we spend our time here. Kala means our lifestyle, what we do, how we lead our lives. That will be explained in the subsequent verses. So that is a simple introduction. I'm going to explain. Vakshyami, I'm going to explain it 2 times. Avrittim, anavrittim. That which enables us to not return, anavritti, merge in God. Avrittim, that lifestyle, which if you lead that, you have to come back to the same human birth again. So now we go to verse number 24. 23, just an introduction of the topic. What is going to explain? 24. Agnirjyotirah shuklah षण्मासा उत्तरायणम् यत्र प्रयाता गच्छन्ति ब्रह्मविदो जनाः. Agni means fire. Fire means light. Agnir Jyoti. Jyoti means light. Agnir Jyoti. Ahas means daytime, not nighttime. Ahas. Shuklah means Shukla Paksha, the bright half of the fortnight. Half the month is bright, the moon is rising and ends in the full moon. Half the month is dark, Krishna Paksha. The moon gradually diminishes and ends in new moon. So here Shukla Paksha, those who die in the bright half of the month. Shanmasa Uttarayanam. Uttarayana means northern half of the year. Shanmasa means 6 months. The 6 months during which sun travels in the northern part of the sky. During that time, Uttarayana time, Tatra Prayata Brahma Gachanti, they reach Brahman. Those who die during that period, when there is light and the bright half of the for half the month, bright fortnight, then the moon is rising, ending in full moon. Uttaranam Shanmasam, 6 months of the year when sun is in the northern part of the sky. Tatra Prayata, those who leave their body during that time, Brahma Gachanti, they reach Brahman, ultimate reality. That means they reach liberation. End of the cycle of birth and death. No more transmigration. No more punarjanma, rebirth. Brahmavido Jana, those who know Brahman. That means not only the time during which we die, but we have to be Brahmavida. We have to know Brahman. We should lead our life in such a way that our life is God-centered. Everything we do should be related to God. All our activity must be done as worship, dedicated to God, as a servant, as a devotee, worshipping God through all our activities and leading a spiritual life. If you do that, then we don't have to come back to this world. Now, this world is, as we saw in the 15th verse, full of suffering and joyless. And it is everything ends here. Everything is temporary. Nothing is permanent. If you are happy, then that will change very quickly. Unhappiness will come. Nothing is permanent. So in this world, we don't want to come back. If you want to come back, then there is no problem. We don't have to do anything. Rebirth will be there. But if we don't want to come back, if you want to reach God and remain united with God forever, then we have to lead a clean spiritual life. That is being described here. Not necessarily the time. That is 24. They Tatra Prayata Brahma Gachanti, they reach Brahman, knowers of Brahman. As opposed to this, in verse number 25, the other lifestyle is being described. 25. Thomo Ratristatha Krishna Shanmasa Dakshinayanam Tatra Chandramasam Jyotiryogi Prapya Nivartate. Nivartana means coming back. If we lead a certain lifestyle in a certain way, then we'll have to come back to the human birth. Sometimes maybe lower birth also, we don't know. Depends upon what we do in this life. Dhuma means smoke. Smoke means darkness. Ratri, night time. Ratri here means not just the night time and there is sun is not visible, but the dark way of leading life. Tamasic way of leading life. Ratristatha Krishna. Krishna means the dark fortnight, dark half of the month, when moon diminishes and ends in new moon night, no moon visible. Shanmasa Dakshinayanam, 6 months during which the sun travels in the southern half of the sky. Dakshina means south. Tatra Chandramasam Jyotihi Yogi Prapya Nivartate. Passing away during time marked by this, Yogin reaches the lunar light and returns. So he goes to some loka, heaven, generally, if you have done some good things, enjoys the fruit of our action, and then comes back to the human world and start the life all over again, another cycle. Now, these are the two paths. Now, what is important to notice here is it is not just the chronological time, though it is explained in terms of the time, night time and 6 months during which sun is in the northern half or southern. Those are not the main things. Those indicate the lifestyles, bright lifestyle, dark lifestyle. Bright lifestyle means getting a spiritual life, morally pure, spiritual life, life of prayer and worship. That leads us to the ultimate goal, namely God. Then we don't have to come back. The night, dark lifestyle is the opposite. Enjoying the world and trying to find happiness and by moral, immoral means, no time for worship of God. That lifestyle will make us come back to this world. So two paths are available to us. Which path we want to choose is left to us. Both paths are being described here. Then these two paths are summarized in the next two verses, 26. Shukla Krishne Gati Yete Jagata Shashvate Mate Ekaya Yatyana Vrittim Anyaya Vartate Punaha. Shukla Gati, Krishna Gati. We have Shukla and Krishna both in our Vedanta center here. Shukla means bright, light, bright way of leading, a pure way of leading the life. Krishna means dark. Darkness means ignorance, not having any interest in knowing God and no interest in spiritual life. Just go through the world experiences, seeking happiness in this and that. That is Krishna Gati. Shukla Gati, Krishna Gati. Gati means the goal. Shukla Krishne Gati Hyete Jagatah Shashvate Mate. These two are the light and dark courses have to be eternal for the world. They're always there, eternal. As long as the world is there, these two paths are available. We have to make the choice. Ekaya yati anavrityam. By following one path, the bright path, anavrityam yati, we reach no return. That means once you reach God, we don't have to come back to the realm of ignorance and suffering. Our union with Him is permanent. Ekaya, by following one path, the bright path, anavritim yati, a person reaches no return. That will come in several places in the Gita. Anyaya, if you follow the other path, the dark path, avartate, manyaya, avartate punah, we'll have to come back again. Going through the same experience, again, birth and death and suffering, bereavement, unhappiness, some pleasure in between, like this. How people spend their life is what is more important. Not the time in which they die, that doesn't matter at all. That is the Puranic view. That does not hold good for devotees. For devotees, how they have lived their life. That is what determines what happens after they leave this body and this life ends. Shukla Gati, Krishna Gati. Bright lifestyle, dark lifestyle. Dark lifestyle means you don't have to dwell much on it. People interested in worldly things, finding enjoyment in property, money, family, children, grandchildren, success, fame, and spending their time in worldly preoccupations, sports, politics, and all those things. People go to Hindu temples. There, the priest is doing the puja, Ashtotra or something, is chanting the mantra. People are not paying attention. I've seen this happen in Hindu temples. They're talking about something worldly matter. They talk about their children, their families, recipe, and cars, and all those things. That's not right. We have to keep our mind fixed on God all the time, as much as possible. That is Shukla Gati, bright lifestyle, bright way of leading life. Then it will take us to God. Once we reach God, then we will be united with Him permanently. No returning to the realm of ignorance and suffering. That is liberation, salvation, liberation, moksha, mukti. That is being described here. Now the concluding verse on this chapter, on this topic, verse number 27. Naite Sruti Partha Janan Yogi Muhyati Kaschana Tasmat Sarveshu Kaleshu Yoga Yukto Bhavarjuna. In instruction, what we should do. In view of the previous things mentioned, two paths leading to different goals, what we should do, that instruction is being given in verse number 27. Those verses in which Sri Krishna gives instruction, do this, those have to be especially noted because those are the things we have to do. So what we have to do is explained in verse number 27. Na ete sruti. Sruti means two paths. Ete sruti. These two paths, bright path, dark path. Janan, knowing these two paths, difference between these two paths. Yogi kashana namuhyati. Na comes in the beginning. Na ete. Namuhyati. The word na has to be combined with the word muhyati. It does not become deluded. Will not become confused. Clearly knows what is the goal, what is the way. Yogis, they know which lifestyle to follow. Those who don't know, they will end up going the wrong way and suffering and coming back. Tasma, therefore, what we have to do, Sarveshu Kaleshu Yukto Bhava. That came earlier also in verse number 5. Tasma Sarveshu Kaleshu Ma Manusmara Yudhyacha. At all times you remember me, he said before, and do your duty, Yudhya. Tasmat Sarveshu Kaleshu, therefore at all times, Sarveshu Kaleshu, at all times, not wasting time in thinking about worldly matters, except as necessary for work purposes to some extent. Sarveshu Kaleshu, Yoga Yukto Bhava, Arjuna. Oh Arjuna, practice yoga, apply yourself to yoga at all times. Sarveshu Kaleshu Yoga Yukto Bhava. That is the instruction. That is meant for each one of us. Each one of us interested in salvation, interested in knowing God, reaching God. We have to always remain engaged in yoga. Yoga yukto sarveshu kaleshu yoga yukta bhava. Become engaged in yoga. Any kind of yoga that is that suits our temperament, personality. Bhakti yoga, usually combination. Someone was asking me a question by email. You can't really separate Bhakti yoga, Karma yoga. All the yogas have elements of the other. Each yoga has elements of the other three yogas. Can't really separate them completely into watertight compartment. They will all become merged towards the end. The beginning they appear to be different. Oh, the Karma yoga is so different and Bhakti yoga is so different. Really, if you start practicing, you will see that you are doing everything. How can you do Karma yoga without thinking about God? Because Karma yoga means practicing detachment from karma phala, work conditions, or dedicating all actions to God. As he says in many places in the Gita, dedicate all actions, offer everything to me, he says. That came in the 3rd chapter, verse 30, it will come in 9:27 again in 18th chapter. Dedicate all actions to me. When we dedicate all actions to God, we have to think about God. Bhakti comes there. Devotion comes there. So they are not separate. They cannot be completely separated. Yoga Yukta Bhava, in some way that is appropriate, that is possible, that is convenient, we have to remain connected with God. Constant communion with God. Constant remembrance of God. That is our duty. Bhava Arjuna, Yoga Yukta Bhava Arjuna. That is the instruction for all of us. That is the one that we have to note. The other details like Krishna, Shukla, and Shanmasa, Dakshinayana, Turana, are not important. Those only indicate lifestyles. So that is verse number 27. Instruction is always remain connected with God. Practice yoga at all times. Yoga yukta bhava. Sarveshu kaleshu at all times. Now we go to the last verse, end of this chapter, verse number 28. Vedeshu yajneshu tapassu chaiva daneshu yat punya phalam pradishtam atyeti tat sarvamidam viditva yogi param sthanam upaiti chadyam. Very interesting verse. Yogi, that person who practices yoga, any kind of yoga, any combination, it can be any combination of the various yogas. Yogi param sthanam upaiti. Adyam sthanam. Adyam means primordial, beginning, most important. Sthanam means goal. Goal, sthanam, gatim, they all, padam, they all mean the same thing, goal. Where we go. Goal means destination. Where we go after leaving the body. Either we come back to the human world and go through the life again, or we reach God and stay with God, united with God. Just like a river reaches, merges into the ocean, and what happens to the river? It becomes the ocean. It does not stay as a separate river in the ocean. River becomes ocean. That means gives up its limited identity as one river, assumes infinite identity of the big, large, infinite ocean, becomes one with the divine. That is liberation. If you want that, you have to lead our life in a certain way. If you're not that much concerned about liberation, if you don't mind coming back, then we can lead our regular life. That is the option. Two options are given here in this chapter. Param sthanam, yogi param sthanam adyam upaiti. Reach. Upaiti means reaches. The supreme goal, param sthanam, supreme goal he reaches. Other worldly goals are limited. We want to do a project, build a house, or get a job. These are worldly goals. They are limited. For some time they will serve and then they will end. But the God realization goal, that is infinite, eternal. Once you reach, that is, you will become merged in God. You will become infinite. You will become, realize our divine nature. We are all divine by nature, potentially, but most of us, most of the time, are not aware of our potential divinity. That's what the Upanishad says in the Mahavakya. That's what Swamiji said. Swami Vivekananda said, each soul is potentially divine. In simpler language, he said. Upanishad says, Tattvamasi Brahmasmi, etc. We are that even now. We have always been that, nothing else. But the ignorance that I am the body and the mind, this is my life, this is my property, this is my family, that ignorance will go away once for all. And then we realize our divine, infinite, Satchidananda nature. We become Satchidananda. We don't become, we are already that. We will realize that we have always been that. That is the goal of human life. Param sthanam, adyam sthanam, upeti. A yogi reaches that goal of liberation. For when the person reaches that goal, then all other smaller goals will be transcended. Other smaller goals are explained in the first line. People also do various good things also, spiritual things also, but they are limited. For example, Vedeshu, Yajneshu, Tapassu means in. Vedeshu means in studying the Vedas, Vedic literature, acquiring scholarship in the Vedas. Yajneshu in sacrifices, performing various sacrifices, seeking something. In the Vedas, in one part of the Vedas, Brahmana portion of the Vedas, the sacrifices are described. These sacrifices are generally all kamya karmas, seeking something. For example, if you are a king, and if you want to have a larger kingdom, you have to do certain type of sacrifice. If you want to defeat your enemies, you have to do certain type of sacrifice. What type you have to do, that is all given, details are given in the Vedas. If you want sons, you have to do certain type of sacrifice, yajna. That is what Dasharatha did. Dasharatha did not have sons. Those days it was very important for kings to have at least one son to whom he could entrust his kingdom and go to Vanaprastha ashrama to live in the forest. That was the custom. So he didn't have a son, Dasharatha, Rama's father. Then he consulted this guru, Vasishtha, Vishwamitra Vasishtha. Then they told him, if you want a son, you have to do this particular yajna, Vedic yajna. He did that one. The name of that Vedic yajna Dasharatha did to get sons is Putra Kameshti yajna. Putra means son. Kama means desire, seeking a son. Ishti means a certain type of yogic, Vedic sacrifice. He did that one. He got 4 sons. So that his desire was fulfilled. Those are all yajnas described here. Yedeshu, yajneshu, tapasu. Those kind of yajnas provide limited temporary benefits. Supposing you get sons, then how long will the sons be with you? Generally, the parents will leave first, the sons will remain. Separation will come, not permanent. Same thing about kingdom. They're all temporary benefits. Same thing about somebody becomes sick and they do a certain type of yajna to become well. And that good health will stay for some time. Then again, old age comes and sickness comes. Those are all, these yajnas are all, they provide temporary benefits. They're not the highest goal of human life. God is the highest goal of human life. It is only permanent. Vedeshu, yajneshu, tapasu. Tapas means various kinds of austerities. Fasting and going on a pilgrimage, doing some charity, doing some dana for a particular purpose, all limited goals. Vedeshu, yajneshu, tapasu, daneshu, charity, giving certain type of dana for to gain some kind of benefit. Goal oriented, limited goal oriented. Dana, daneshu, yat punya phalam pradishtam, whatever punya has been described. If you do this, you will get this benefit. If you do this, you will get this benefit. Those are described in the Vedas. For example, in the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, in one chapter, Brihadaranyaka Upanishad comes in the Brahmana portion of the Vedas. And there is a section which says, which we don't study normally. That chapter where monks don't study. Because there it says, if you want a son who will become a great Vedic scholar, who will earn a lot of money, gold coins and fame and cattle, then you have to do this procedure, this kind of yajna you have to do. He described that. Householders who are interested, they were doing those kinds of things. Those things have gone out of vogue right now. There are other means to fulfill their needs, different lifestyle now. But those are all limited things. Vedeshu, yajneshu, tapasu chaiva, daneshu, giving charity for a certain purpose. Yat punya phalam pradishtam, whatever benefit has been described, punya, merit has been described, which will earn a place in heaven. In the next chapter, we'll study heaven is also a very temporary thing. As long as the punya, good deeds they do, the merits last, so long we stay in the heaven. And then once that is exhausted, punya is exhausted, we'll have to come back to human birth. 9th chapter, the sloka describes that one, temporary nature of heaven. That is not the highest goal of life. Only goal of life, highest goal of life is God. That supersedes all other smaller goals. That's what this sloka is saying. Yat punya phalam pradishtam, whatever punya has been prescribed will be obtained. Tat sarvam atyeti. A yogi transcends all these limited things. Yogi does not do any kind of yajna to gain a son or a kingdom or a long life or something. He only worships God out of pure love, pure devotion. Such a person who worships God out of pure devotion, out of love, not seeking anything. All seeking is for temporary things only. Whatever you seek is for a short time only. Everything will go away. That is not the highest. Atyeti, such a person who practices yoga, devotion, karma yoga, jnana yoga, etc. Tasavamidam atyeti. It transcends all these limited things that you obtain by studying the Vedas and doing yajnas and tapas and charity, etc. Those are all, they produce limited results. A true devotee does not care for them. His sights are at a higher level. His sight, God is the only goal for such a person. Other goals are limited. For some time they will do something good, but then disappear. Result will disappear. That is being explained here. Atyeti tasudam idam viditva. Knowing this temporary nature of all these other things, a yogi, that a person who practices yoga, what happens? Param sthanam adyam sthanam upaiti, reaches the highest goal. Once you go there, reach that goal, it will never be lost. Once you reach God, it's permanent. The God is eternal, infinite. Everything else world is finite and temporary. Why do we have to go after that? That is the wisdom. So here this verse says, what has been stated here in the course of answering 7th question, no, that is a different topic. A yogi who practices yoga, devotion, or some other combination, karma yoga, bhakti yoga, jnana yoga, etc., such a person reaches the highest goal, permanent eternal goal, which supersedes all the other goals achieved by Veda, Yajna, Dana, Tapas, Charity. We don't care for those things. Those are small things. That is the conclusion. So what is the conclusion? We have to reach only for God. Reaching for heaven is also very temporary. That will come in the next chapter. Heaven is also a temporary place. You stay there for some time. In the Puranas, various detailed descriptions of heavens are given, different levels of heaven, depending upon what kind of good deed we do. Some heavens have more facilities, more enjoyment, longer time. Some heavens are a medium level, like that one. Same thing about Naraka, hell also. Some hells are very difficult, that means very severe kind of punishment will be given. Some hells are not so severe, depending upon how bad a karma a person has done during this lifetime. So we are not interested in heaven or hell. Heaven and hell are all temporary things, and they are just no better than the things of this world. They appear so attractive, they are no better than anything that this world can offer. So a true devotee, true yogi does not care for them. He goes only for God, he reaches only for God. That is the only permanent thing. That's the conclusion of this chapter. So we can begin chapter 9. But before I do, I want to point out a few verses in chapter 8. Some verses which are very, very important, which describe certain practices that we all have to do. And those are not many. In the first two verses of chapter 8, Arjuna has 7 questions. 7 questions. The first and last questions are very important. First question was, Kim Tad Brahma? What is Brahman? That will be described in the later verses. Sri Krishna describes Brahman as the eternal, ultimate reality, highest. Then is Adhyatma, Adhibhuta, Adhidaiva, some definitions of terms only, nothing there. Sri Krishna answers all of them in 2 slokas. The last question, most important question, that's the one that we spent a lot of time. The last question Arjuna asks in the second verse, second line of second verse, chapter 8 is, Prayana kale cha katham jneyosi niyatatmadhihi. Prayana kala means the time of departure from this world. That means at the time of death. At the time of death, how one has to think about you. Those who have controlled their minds practicing some spiritual practice, how are they to think about you at the last moment? Someone asked why they last so much emphasis on last moment. Because that is when our future is going to be decided. At the last moment, we have to know what is the next step. That is why our whole life has to be led in such a way that we will be thinking about God at the last moment. That indicates our future. We go to God. If we leave the body thinking about the world, oh, I did not do that one, I should have purchased that property, and my grandson is going to be married, I will not be there. If you think of all those things, that will happen to us in the next birth. Same thing. But if you want to reach God, we should think about God at the last moment. Now, practical instructions given in 3 or 4 slokas only. We'll leave out all the definitions. Verse number 5, 6, and 7. 5, 6, 7, 8 also. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And then you can skip 10, 10 and 13. 5, 6, 7 and 13. 13th verse says, Om ityekaksharam brahma vyaharan mamanusmaran. Chanting the syllable Om or our mantra or name of God, Mam Anusmaran, thinking of me, remembering God. Yaha Deham Tyajan Prayati, one who leaves the body, giving up the body, one who proceeds further. Saha Paramam Gatim Yati. It reaches supreme. Paramagati means supreme goal. Para means supreme. Gati means goal, destination. We reach God. Highest destination is God. Otherwise, if you think of something else during the last moment, which will happen if you are not thinking about God during the lifetime, then we'll come back to the world. Which way do we want to go? That is our choice, option. Do we want to come back to this world? Then most of the time, you can think about world, do whatever. Want to reach God, don't want to come back, and most of the time, think about God. Tasmat sarveshu kaleshu mamanusmara yudhyacha. That one line itself contains the gist of all the instructions. Verse number 7, first line in chapter 8, verse number 7. There Bhagavan says one sentence, which is enough if you follow that one sentence. We don't have to do many things. Just one thing we have to do. What is that? In chapter 8, verse 7, first line, Bhagavan Sri Krishna says, Tasmat, therefore, Sarveshu Kaleshu, at all times, Mam Anusmara, remember me. Smaranam means remembering. Yudhyacha, do your duty. Fight. Fighting means for Arjuna, fighting in the battlefield, Kurukshetra battlefield. For us, fighting means fighting with our own lower tendencies. All the time, our mind is conflict. One part of the mind says, I want to do this, other part says, I want to do that. You have to weigh which is better, which leads me to God. Then you have to decide. That constant fight in our own minds is going on all the time. That's our fight in this life. Within ourselves, there is no external enemy for us. People are not our enemies. Our own mind, our own desires and weaknesses, anger, jealousy, they are our shatrus. They are our enemies. 6 of them. Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Moha, Mada, Matsarya. We have to fight with them. Kama means uncontrolled, unspiritual desire. Krodha means anger. Krodha, Lobha means greed. Moha means delusion, wrong understanding. Mada means pride. Matsarya means jealousy. And a few others are there, like fear, etc. These are the true enemies. We have to fight with them. That constant fight is going on in our mind. That fight will have to continue. So the instruction given in verse number 7 is Tasmat Sarveshu Kaleshu, at all times, Mam Anusmara, remember me. Yudhyasa, do your fight. Do your duty. Whatever is your duty at this moment, you have to do that duty. As worship, as offering. That is the instruction. That line alone is sufficient. If you do that, practice it all the time. Verse number 7, first line. Like that, many lines are there in the Gita. Just one idea only we have to take and practice it diligently all our lives. That will take us to the goal. In the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna said one does not have to read all the 700 slokas of the Gita. Take one or two ideas and follow them, put them to practice all the time diligently, you will reach the goal. So this is one of those lines. Many such lines will come throughout the Gita, I will point out. By doing one thing, we will get the goal. So one thing you have to do, remember God constantly. The Sarveshu Kaleshu Mam Anusmara, remember me, and do your duty, your duty. That is those are important verses. And then whom are we worshipping? What's the nature of the divinity, divine God that we are worshipping is explained in verse number 9. Kavim Puranam Anushasitaram Anoraniyan Samanusmaredyaha Sarvasya Dhataramachintya Rupam Aditya Varnam Tamasah Parastat. These are all description of the supreme reality. You can worship that reality in any form we choose. You can worship God without name and form and attributes, without attributes. Nirguna Nirakara Brahma, some people do that. They don't worship any murti, any idol. But some people worship a chosen idea. Rama or Krishna or Shiva or Durga or whatever their choice is, they worship. All are the same. These are all different names, aspects, forms of the same one reality. One reality, many different names. That we know from the teaching of Sri Ramakrishna. He said, if there is a lake, different people go to different parts of the lake, ghats. Some people take the same water, they call it jal or pani. Some people take the same water and they call it tirtham or jalam, Tamil people. Some people call it water in English, but they're all taking the same water. Only one water. Different names, different ways of addressing that one. So whomever, whichever form of God you worship, are worshipping the same divinity through those forms. You can have our chosen preferred form. That is okay. That way, by worshipping that supreme reality in any form you like. Kavim, Sarva Kavi means one who knows everything, omniscient. God is omniscient. Kavi also means a poet. Kavim Puranam. Purana means ancient, beginningless, Anadi. Anushasitaram, one who controls, administers the whole creation. The whole creation is administered, supported by the divine power of God. Anoraniyan, subtler than the subtlest. Yaha samanusmared, one who remembers. Anusmarana means remember, constant remembrance. Thinking about God at all times. Sarvasya dhataram, who is the protector of everything in this universe. Whole universe is protected by the Lord. Achintya rupam, his form cannot be visualized because he has no form. Pure consciousness has no form. God with form has form. That's our choice, which form we like to worship. But reality, ultimate reality is pure consciousness that has no form, no quality, no name, no form. Achintya rupam, aditya varnam. Aditya varnam means which is as bright as the sun. Actually, in 11th chapter, we come across a shloka which says brighter than 1,000 suns. Divi Surya Sahasrasya Bhaved Vigabhadutika, like that. That will come in 11th chapter. Bright means no trace of darkness or ignorance. Darkness means ignorance, brightness means knowledge. Yaha tamasah parastat, beyond all the domain of darkness, ignorance. Such a reality, God, using whatever form, name you like, worshipping, we reach Him. Whom are we worshipping? These are the descriptions of the ultimate reality we are worshipping in our own way, our own form. In 4th chapter, we studied that one. Chapter 4, verse number 11, there Sri Krishna says to devotees, in whatever form you worship me, I'll respond to you in the same form. Ye yatha mam prapadyante tam suthaiva bhajamyaham. In whatever form devotees worship me, In that form, I will respond to them. If you worship God as Rama, he will respond as Rama. He will appear to you as Rama. Like that one, your choice. You choose the form, worship that form. You are worshipping the same reality through that form, and he will appear to you in the same form. Hanuman was worshipping God as Rama only. He didn't want to see God as Krishna or Shiva or anything, only Rama. So God always appeared to him as Rama only. He responds in the same way in which you call upon him. That came in the 4th chapter, verse number 11. So that is the instruction. In whatever form we worship God, we have to worship God. Then there is one more verse, 13. 13. Omityekaksharam brahma vyaharan mamanusmaran yah prayati tyajan deham sayati paramam gatim. Pronouncing the syllable Om, if possible our mantra or only name of God. If you leave the body, Mamanusmaran, remembering God, Yaha Deham Tyajan Prayati, gives up the body and proceeds. What happens to such a person? Saha Paramam Gatim Yati, reaches Supreme Good, reaches God. So we have to make it a point. Now somebody asked Holy Mother, some people before dying, they become very sick for a long time and then they lose consciousness. Several days or weeks before dying, actually dying. Then what happens? Then the unconscious person cannot think about God or anything. Is unconscious. Then what to do? Holy Mother gave a reply. She said, whatever thought is in one's mind before becoming unconscious, whatever he has been thinking when he is conscious, that will determine his future. So as long as we are conscious, we should think about that. If we become unconscious, then of course nothing can be done. Our effort ceases there. No more self-effort when we are unconscious. As long as self-effort is possible, as long as we are conscious, we should think about God, repeat God's name in any way we like. That is the instruction. Those are the important verses. And all of these things can be reached. Just the verse we did today, 22nd verse, the one that we did today. God can be reached by practicing pure devotion. Ananyaya bhaktya labhyaha. God is Parah Purusha, Supreme Reality God, Supreme Being God. Labhyaha can be reached by Ananya Bhakti, and one-pointed, undivided devotion to God. That is the path emphasized. We can follow any path. Combine devotion with Karma Yoga or with Jnana Yoga or anything you can combine. But devotion without seeking anything from God. Devotion that does not seek anything in return from God. Give me this, give me that, should not be there. Not out of fear. Some people worship God out of fear. No, not out of fear, not out because of desire. Pure devotion, no seeking. For the sake of love, love for the sake of love. If we do that, we will reach the supreme reality. Paraha, Purushaha, Labhyaha will be supreme reality. Then there is no coming back. So that is the last instruction. And we don't, true devotee does not care for all these limited benefits that you get by doing yajna, dana, tapas, etc., Vedic chanting, and they give some benefit, but those benefits are not permanent. They last for some time and then they disappear. So better than that, we practice only pure devotion, not seeking anything. God knows what we need. We entrust our life, our well-being to God, and He will take care of it. Sharanagati. That is the ultimate. So we will stop here. If you have questions, please let me know. And next time, I shall reply to those 4 people who sent me the verses that deal with equanimity. I'll reply to them separately also. Thank you very much, and all of you stay well, and God willing, we shall see you next week. Very good. Closing prayer. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah, Sarve Santu Niramayah, Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu, Ma Kaschid Dukkha Bhag Bhavet. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. We still have a few minutes. If you have questions or comments, you can ask me.
Swamiji? Namaste, Swamiji. Swamiji, so my question is, the word anusmara is used instead of smara. Could you reflect on the difference? What is the difference between anusmara and smara?
Anu prefix emphasizes. Smarat is enough, but sometimes they add a prefix to complete the requirements of the meter. So it more emphasis on smarana. That's all. Importance of remembering anusmarana. Smaranam is the same, no difference in meaning, but more emphasis. Anusmaret or smaret, both are same.
Swamiji, what is your new email ID? I lost. I don't have that latest email ID.
I can't hear the question.
What is your new email ID?
So Indranil asking question.
Yes, Pranam Swamiji.
Yeah.
Your email ID.
Oh, email ID is easy to remember. Swami BRAHMAR. SWAMI BRAHMAR Swami Brahmar @gmail.com.
Thank you, sir.
Maharaj, I have one question. In one of the verse 3, it is explained. Visarga means creation.
Visarga means creation.
The process by which all beings come into existence is called karma.
The act of creation is the cosmic karma. Kim karma purushottama. That was the question. The act of creation is the karma. Karma also happens at different levels. At individual level, in your body, in your mind, in nature, karma constantly happens. But here, the cosmic karma of creation is called karma. Visarga karma samhita. That's how Sri Krishna explains that, answer that question. He didn't explain anything in detail in that 5 questions in that beginning of chapter 8. It's very interesting, curious. He just briefly dispensed with them by one sentence, part of a sentence. So I don't find any more information anywhere else also about all those things. Adibhota, Adideva, Adiyagnya, some things are given there. Adibhota is the physical part of the nature of personality, the physical body, etc. Adideva means the divine presence within everything, especially in nature. For example, sun, which produces all the energy, light and heat. That energy comes to sun from God, from Brahman. So that is Adidaiva. So there are also Adidaivatas, preceding deities. Another meaning of Adidaivam is, in some places, each part of nature, each part of our body is governed by a certain deity. For example, our hands are governed by Indra, our eyes and heart are governed by sun, Surya Deva. Our breathing is governed by Ashwini Devatas. Like that, those are not really of much practical significance to us.
In verse 28, Sri Ramakrishna also did not give much importance to limited goals like charity, etc., like building hospitals.
They produce limited result temporarily. Those who want, they can gain them, but that's a true devotee does not care for them. It transcends them. The devotion exceeds, gives permanent result. That union with God, which is permanent. That is to be preferred than temporary benefits, like a promotion or a child or something like that of that nature. People want, they will get it, but how long will it last? Because one day the body will go, life will end. Before that, the benefit also will end. So that's not really the highest thing. Highest goal is God. Reach God by devotion. The best path is devotion. Other paths also are possible. Many paths leading to one goal.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Okay. So let us stop here.